What's going on, guys? So if you didn't see the video that I did on this really cool Raptor claw bucket that a buddy of mine, actually my neighbor, welded together for me, you go back and check it out. So basically what I had him do was design me a bucket that is 4 inches wide with an inner width of about 3¼ inches for trenching work. And you know, I know there's a lot of folks out there that are going to say, you know, you want to use a wider bucket or you want to use a bucket for this or that. But this is very specific to what I need done out here, where I'm going to be running PVC from the well over here to the front where it needs to be used for irrigation. And then also from the good well over here to the RV so I can supply the RV with fresh water. Because right now I got hoses running everywhere. And today what we're going to do is actually kind of experiment with this bucket and just see how good of a job it does over a trenching distance. I'm not going to do it too far today because we're probably not going to have time to do what I need to do today because of other things that I have going on. But at least I'll get a good idea of its trenching capabilities and see if this is truly going to work for my application. Now what's also going to be interesting is I'm going to take some of the suggestions on the video and the comments that people posted on different ways I can use this to see if it works. One of which is just stabbing it in the ground and then driving the excavator backwards to see if it trenches out a hole as well. So we're going to try all of this stuff. We're going to see how well it works, and hopefully it'll do exactly what I want it to do. So hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry for the loud cab noise. I am running the air conditioner right now. It is very hot and humid outside, and I'm going to try to stay as dry as possible. This is as far in as I can curl this bucket because of its design. If we made some changes to it, it would probably be to kind of change the angle when this is fully curled in. Fully curled out, definitely have enough grabbing distance, if that makes sense. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move the excavator to where we're going to be messing with it today. Not the ideal bucket to rotate the excavator with, if that makes sense. Basically, when you go down with this thing, it pretty much just wants to kind of push itself in the ground. So we'll be doing this the old-fashioned way. Okay, so now we're over in the area of the yard that I call the sandbox because it's pretty much the area that I've done most of my practice. And yeah, so I'm going to start in a grassy area because it's going to best kind of emulate what types of conditions we'll be using this in when we start trenching. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try what a lot of commenters said to do, and I'm going to put the bucket in the ground. Curl it in a little bit like that, and I'm going to try to just simply drive the tractor backwards or the excavator backwards and see if that's going to be enough to actually trench out the area. I might take it out just a little bit, maybe right around here. So right now I have about 15 inches that's actually going into the ground. So the cab is relatively straight, and again I'm just going to start driving backwards to see what happens. Working, and there's not really any resistance. At least it doesn't feel like there is. All right, go back. You know, that was pretty effective. To be honest with you, it's pretty effective. It looks like it dug probably about a 4-inch trench, even though I had the majority of the blade in. So yeah, I'm going to say about a third of the trench was dug out doing it that way. Of course, I can come back kind of as a second pass, and I could go in and clean it out a little bit more. This is essentially where I started. makes the trench a bit wider, so that's nice. Or sorry, a bit deeper. I could do what a lot of people say to do, which is kind of take layers off the top. And that works real well also. Let's see, if I just want to scoop in and just pull back, let's see what happens. This almost seems like it's the most effective. The only problem is, you can probably see this area right around here that I'm essentially backfilling. It kind of caves in. So even though it's pretty deep in this area back here, it starts to cave in right about here. So you get about 16, 17 inches ahead of it, and it starts to cave in a little bit. Let's see if I can kind of work this trench a little bit more effectively here. So if I take scoops like this, and a lot of people say, well, why don't I just buy a trenching tool or a trenching attachment, or just simply hook a ripper blade to the back of the tractor? I mean, I could probably do that. I'm sure a lot of people do that. The challenge with me is exactly like what you saw when I first started doing it with this. You run into the issue of the cave kind of collapsing in, or the trench collapsing in behind you once you're done. So for me, it's a lot easier to simply go back and do it this way with this than it would be with a trenching tool, or at least a trenching attachment to the back of the tractor. In essence, a ripping blade. And you know what? I could actually start the way I initially started to get the line going, so I have a nice clean line, of simply putting the bucket in a little bit like this and then driving backwards. Or even maybe just doing this a couple times, because this should do what I'm trying to do. It's just not going to be as neat. Yes, some dirt does get stuck in there because it's relatively narrow, especially if there's clay. That would probably get stuck in there, but most of what I deal with out here is sand, so clay is not so much a concern. I'm going to hop down real quick so I can show you kind of what this looks like up close, because I think that the perspective might be throwing some people off. Okay, so the area that I just drug the bucket is kind of this area, and it's pretty much backfilled itself completely. It's a bit of a trench, but maybe probably only about 2 inches deep of usable trench. This is the area that I was scooping, and you can see far more effective. It's well over a foot deep in that area, probably about 10, 12 inches deep right there. But again, just dragging the blade doesn't do a heck of a lot for you. So yeah, this is really the best way to do it if I want to get any depth at all, because just pulling this through, I mean, that's not very deep. And it will work, and I could go over it several times. And again, maybe I carve out my initial path, so it's kind of a reference of where I need to dig deeper. But by doing it this way and then coming back and digging it out deeper, I think might be the way to go. Let's hop inside and use it a little bit more. Cutting edge, still really nice. All right, so I'm gonna pull back up here a little bit. Kind of start where I left off. A lot faster than doing this by hand. But since this is only a little test area, I'm not trying to get the dirt too far away from it, because I need to backfill it all. pretty good on there, though. The blade's not doing a bad job of, or the bucket's not doing a bad job of carrying material at all. It's actually carrying more material per scoop than I originally thought it would. It stacks about 6 inches higher than the top of the bucket itself. In essence, this is exactly what I wanted this blade to do. It's doing exactly the way that I was hoping it would do it. Now, I know some folks say to put a kind of like a hard tooth on the front of it to prevent it from getting damaged, but I'm not busting through rocks or anything. Like I said, I'm going through sand. I go through clay occasionally, but it's not going to be anything really hard enough to really cause damage to the front cutting edge of this. And I wanted the front cutting edge as sharp as possible. Like they're not even there. One thing I'd love to know from those of you who operate heavy equipment is, how do you grip the joysticks? Do you grip them from the side, kind of like you're playing a game? Do you grip them from the top? I've been watching some YouTubers like Let's Dig. A lot of people recommended that I watch it. I was actually watching that when I was making my decision process on which excavator I wanted. And I see that in some videos he operates his from the top, and that's what I've been doing. And you actually get a lot more feel, more finesse on the controls when you do that. Things are a little bit more precise, is what I'm at least realizing for me personally. But I'm trying to experiment with all sorts of different types of controls and how best to manipulate them. Certainly getting better, but I'm absolutely not a pro. Just trying my best to be careful and not to break things, and to get as efficient with it as possible, because as much as I love doing this, sometimes you want to just get the project done and you don't want it to drag out just because you might enjoy the process of digging a hole, if that makes sense. Part of backfilling the hole once I get done with it. And really, what's nice about this bucket is it doesn't leave a trench so wide that I can't traverse across it. So you see a lot of folks who show you how to get over ditches and over trenches, and I don't really want to have to use many of those techniques because I don't really believe I'm going to be in a situation where I have to do that. So if I can avoid the possibility of tipping my excavator over through user error and just not knowing how to do it like a pro might, I'd prefer that. And with the ability to dig such a narrow trench, I don't have to focus in so much on how I'm going to get over the trench. I can simply drive over it if I want, because the entire trench width at this point, at its widest part, is probably a foot at the very top where it tapers, but it's not very, very wide for the most part. It might be 5 inches, 6 inches wide, and it gives me plenty of capabilities of driving over it without possibly falling into it. Now, I probably wouldn't really want to drive a car over it, but I mean, you could drive a truck over it if you needed to, which another nice aspect of this is if I'm doing a project on a driveway or something to where I want to be able to leave for lunch, or I need to go to Lowe's or whatever to pick up pick something up, I want to be able to do that without being boxed in by my trench. So again, this gives me a lot of flexibility, and the way he built it, it may not be built to the standards of some folks who left comments on how they might want to do it differently, and I appreciate those suggestions, but I think he built it more than capable enough to do anything that I would need to use it for. And probably most contractors or folks who might need to use a trenching bucket like this. Now what I'm going to do now is go back over it and clean it out a little bit. Yeah, I'll probably start that project of getting the trench and everything ready for the PVC sometime this week or next week. Just wasn't in the cards today because of my schedule. Still trying to learn the finessing aspect of turning the cab. You know, that's probably the biggest challenge I'm having right now is I wish I could slow that down, because this cab is just so sensitive in terms of rotating it. Everything else I'm getting better at, I'm getting faster at, but the precision of moving the cab in a way that I can quickly get to where I want to go with it has been a little bit of a learning curve for me still. Try to tackle the process of getting that trench dug, and I'll film as much of that as I can, but just wanted to get a little bit more practice with the trenching bucket that my buddy made for me, and give you guys an opportunity to see a little bit more action in terms of how it works and how it might function for me. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.